Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim ghayr al-maghdubi alayhim wa ad-dallin. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursaleen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillah. Last time we met, we spoke about what it is that is the description in the Quran of what is a complete being, what is a complete man or woman, a complete human, and what is the formula that brings human to completion, to fulfillment. And we looked at Surah Al-Baqarah, and it said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim, Dalikal Kitabul Araib. And I just want to recall this to everyone that it was a indication of Dalikal Kitab, that book, not this book, indicating that it's something which is not in our hand necessarily, not created, not man-made, but something which is living. And we touched on the reality that the Quran is the uncreated word of Allah, meaning it has its own existence in eternity. The reality of the Quran is something which we'll see when we come to Surah Al-Rahman, that it has something which is before Allah brings in to this created world, mankind and the existence of the celestial and terrestrial spheres. So it begins with ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ الْأَرَيْبِ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Again, just to go over it, that it is that book, that reality which is connected to the source of it, which is Allah Azza wa Jal, which the spark and representative of that is in your heart, which is your ruh. That is where you can have la ghaib, no doubt. Anything else which is passing, which is ephemeral, which is terrestrial, everything is passing. Yet the nur of Allah, the light and the wisdom in that, contained within that light, manifesting from that light, in that is la ghaib. And then the formula continues, fihi hudan lil muttaqin. That is where the guidance comes for the muttaqi, the person who is aware, is awake, who's living in the now, who's living in the moment. That person can have that clarity and presence, so that when Allah's hidayat comes to him or her and they recognize, and it's recognized, they then yield and recognize. It doesn't mean that it will be perfect, because we're insan, we're forgetful. We are constantly struggling between dhikr and ghafala. So, but that is the optimum place to be, in the moment, present, awake, so that you are practicing your taqwa and you're being guided. Al-muttaqin. Alladhina yu'minuna bil. Now it comes to the call to the human being to recognize. الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. And here is where Allah says, and that describing as the formula continues, that this person believes in the ghaib, and that ghaib is the unseen. And here's where you have to expand your heart. You have to expand your mind. You have to get out. We all have to get out of the context of just thinking that we're stuck in the illusion of time and space. We have to use what Allah has given us as our khayal, our imagination, our ability to reflect and to expand out from our bodies, from our time and space, womb, and imagine that there's something so much greater than our senses can see and feel and touch and smell and taste. These are all limitations, yet they're also all doorways and gifts for us. We can't know and appreciate Allah's or even consider Allah's eternity unless we know what death is, what end is. When you know the dark, then you can recognize light. Everything is created in this in manifestation in this dual nature. So here's where when the description by Allah Azza wa Jalla about yu'minuna bil ghaib is that you have to then see beyond just what your eyes see. See with the eyes of your heart. See with what your intuition is. Some people even call it a gut feeling. They may describe it in so many different ways, but it's a sense of expanded consciousness. It's beyond what we experience on a regular, ordinary, day-to-day sensory experience. And it's represented clearly, as we know, we went across this last week, in the salat. Salat is the key to all of these elements. In particular, the salat is the sajda. Sajda is Subhana Rabbil A'la, beyond, out of body, out of the mind. It is transcendent. And this is where the ghaib is connected to that aspect of the salat. So you then yu'minuna bil ghaib wa yuqimuna as-salata wa mimma razaqnahum yunfikun. And then the formula carries on and finishes saying that when you believe in the ghaib, then you establish the manifestation of all of these elements in the most perfect representation for the human being is the salat and the elements of the salat. The elements of the salat, we've gone over this before, and we'll have a separate gathering just on breaking down every element of the prayer to see how they're key to opening up the heart, expanding consciousness, raising consciousness, and also becoming intimate and with your ruh, bil amri rabbi, within you. So you establish the salat, and then the most beautiful tie, how Allah ties it up, وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And by what we've given you, all this is given. All this is Allah. We didn't do anything, like we said last week. We are not the actors. Allah is the singular actor. Allah is the one who has manifested this creation. Allah is the one in which all our lives are predicated upon. His mutasawwir, his artfulness, his fashioning. That our lives, everything we see, think, hear, feel, this life, before we're in this life, after this life, all of it is in the hands of the one, of the Master and Lord of the universe. But he says, وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. You give out. So what does it mean? You give out, so you become a reflector, you become a conduit, you become a mirror of those attributes of higher consciousness manifesting in the service of first yourself, your families, your loved ones, friends, whoever you meet. It doesn't matter. This is universal. It doesn't matter about being a Muslim or not a Muslim. This is outside completely of this conversation. That you become a conduit of that light, a conduit of those attributes. So what we want to do today, because Anjum mentioned last week, and I suggested, I don't know if he's here with us today, but he's not, all right. But we'll go there too. I want to share with you today a little bit about this theme that we began discussing last week, and what we're discussing now. Does anybody, before we move on to that, does anybody have something they want to, that was not clear to them, or they want to share, or have a question about that, and before we move on? All right, Bismillah. So we're going to look at Surah Ar-Rahman, and carrying on with this theme that we touched on. And before we do that, I want to share with you a courtesy, a method, however you want to look at it, is that how do we approach the Quran? what if the Quran is the uncreated word of Allah, then it is something which we have to access in a way that is reflective of something within us, which is of the light and the nur within our own hearts. We have to access it through a connection between that which is within us. Because they asked, Imam Ali was asked to describe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said he was the Quran on two legs. So he was a manifestation of the wisdom and the knowledge that the Quran had. That is what is also lies in potential for each one of us. We may not have that high maqam, that high station of the prophetic being, but we can have something of that in our being. And it is our heritage. It is what Allah has designed us to be, as He describes that to the angels, that He's going to put a khalifa, a representative of what? Of that light, of that reality, of those attributes, of all those good and indescribable energies that hold up the entire universe. So how do we approach the Quran? Many of you, I know, were brought up, if you went to madrasa, they say you have to read the Quran this way, and you must, there's approved mufassirin, people who make tafsir, and you can't, listen to other ones. These are the ones that are approved, and you're taught a certain way. But there's another reality to this, which I can only, from my own self, I have not been able to approach it other than this way, is that to accept that the Quran was written perfectly and individually for each person. That when you read the Quran and enter into its station, what it's giving, its reflection, it's exactly what the Quran you need at the very moment you need it and read it. You make it alive. You bring the knowledge of it, the light of it, as it manifests and reflects inside of your heart. Imam al-Ghazali was a famous alim and a Sufi. He said you should read the Quran as though it was written for you and you alone. Therefore, you create this intimacy with reality. That's why you then are building on the idea of that leghaib. When you know something not from rote or from someone else's experience, but from your own dhawq, your own tasting, your own experience, then there's no doubt in this. Now, it doesn't mean also that you don't take referencing to the work and to the reflections of others. There are great mufassirin, people who have made tafsir, they're great ulama, urafa, Sufis, awliya Allah, and all of them, you, like a bee, you can make honey from all of them. But ultimately, it is you who have to imbibe, dive in, and become intimate and unified in Tawheed with the message of the Quran. So before we begin reciting or beginning with Surah Al-Rahman, the first few ayahs, I want you to imagine that you're like entering into the Quran as like a garden. Like you're entering into sacred space, that you're going beyond the idea of just an academic or even just a reflective adventure into the Quran, but rather you're entering it with your wholeness, with hudur, with your whole heart. And when you do that, you let go of any preconceived notions. This is going to clear the path for entering into the Quran. You give up any of your ideas. You give up what you're feeling, what your thoughts are, what you enter into the sacred precincts. It's like entering into the haram in Mecca or at the Prophet's mosque, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're entering into a space of sacredness. So you feel it, you sense it. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we begin in taking permission from the one who our lives and all things are predicated upon, who is merciful, who is merciful beyond our capability to comprehend, but yet Rahim, be able to experience it in a limited way in our personal experiences. Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran, خلق الإنسان علمه البيان والشمس وقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان. صدق الله العظيم. So we'll stop there for a moment and go back to the way this surah unfolds. So we began with taking permission, entering into Allah's rahmah, leaving ourselves behind. And we begin, Allah says, Ar-Rahman, just a complete singular statement. Because the word, the name Ar-Rahman only belongs to Allah. Nobody can have that name. It is a divine attribute which belongs to His essence, to His being. Allah says in the Quran, Kataba ala nafsi rahmah, I have written upon myself mercy. So all things are stamped and put in motion by Allah's mercy. The entire creation, each thing has in it Allah's mercy. Every cell of your body has in it Allah's mercy. Everything that one can imagine and beyond is stamped with Allah's mercy. So it begins with this incredible announcement of that the whole of the creation, what limited that we can perceive of it, the most incredible things that we see now in the sky, in the celestial spheres, within ourselves, is all merciful. And so from that incredible dhawq, that taste of mercy, he says, Alam al-Quran. He taught the Quran. The knowledge of the Quran came from that. The first thing, if you take it in the surah in a chronological way, which I am now, is that then from that incredible mercy is the wisdom realities, the teaching, the ayat of Allah, the underneath matrix of all things that lead to creatures being guided and stamped with how they live and how we live. Alam al-Quran. And then after Alam al-Quran, then Allah Azza wa Jal says, Khalaq al-Insan. And then He had created man. So here's the idea that we touched on again last week, that this Quran, this knowledge, this light is in a way, pre-creational. It is something which comes out of the kalam Allah. It's the words of Allah which are uncreated. It is pre-creational. It's not subject to time or space, but it manifests in time and space. So when you read the Quran, that wisdom which is existent then comes to you. It opens in you. Just like when the Prophet ﷺ, when he was in Mount Hira, when he used to go meditate. As you know, there was a night which could have been already and may come, the night of Qadr, Laylatul Qadr in Ramadan, when the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. But was it the Quran as it came out over 111 or 113 surahs, or was it the reality of the Quran came to him? Was it the truth and the essence of that knowledge that Allah had created before mankind had opened up in him? And if you think about it, when he went to see his wife, Khadija, alayhi salam, she questioned him. She said, can you describe Jibril? Because Jibril was the agent of revelation. And the Prophet ﷺ said, his face was from one horizon to the other. So what does it mean? It means that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he awoke to that reality, he saw nothing other than revelation from one horizon to the other. He saw nothing but this wisdom, this reality contained within everything in the ephemeral world, in the created world. He saw it as meanings set up as images. And over a period of some years, all of it then unfolded as archetypical circumstances came out to create a holistic picture of human life and human reality addressed by this knowledge. So you have Khalaq al-Insan after the Quran has been revealed. And here the next ayah says, and Alam al-Hul Bayan. And here's where then you see that this knowledge has come, it is inundated, it is the preempting reality before mankind. And here is where it can be shared because we are given the gift of speech, the gift of being able to articulate. In reality, there's La ilaha illallah. There's nothing to say. But because we are living as Khulafa of Allah, the representatives within the womb of time and space, within the ephemeral world, we have to recognize the paradoxical reality that we live, that there is only one absolute, yet I'm still here. You know, Hajj Mustafa is here, Ismail is here, you know, Majid is here. We exist on a certain level, but in our reality, we are predicated and sustained by a transcendent reality, which is beyond time and space. But our experience through our senses and so on makes us experience this. So it's a natural progression from this knowledge to the creation of man, to this ability to why we're raised above the animals in this one sense, as we can articulate and say, and with eloquence as well. And then he says, Washems. Now here it is, again, the necessity to get out of just our congested lives. He says, Washemsu wa kamaru bihuspan. And then look at the sun and the moon, how they are moved in a precise calculation. How they're made, they can't be one bit out of place. The universe has in its celestial ayat, the signs of on the horizon of our ability to perceive the world beyond our small little selves and our small little worlds, is that all of these things are maintained in an incredible balance, incomprehensible how it's maintained. And if you use your khayal and with the help of what the Hubble telescope and many scientists have discovered, and we've seen pictures of it, of spheres, of galaxies, billions upon billions, and it's all in balance, and it's all maintained, and it gives you a perspective that everything, the perfection. How could you not, at that point, when you attempt the comprehension of this perspective, how can you not know La ilaha illallah, this one reality that is behind sustaining everything in multiplicity? Multiplicity is a proof of his oneness. So, and link also your fingerprint. Just take it from a macro level to a micro level. Your fingerprint. Everybody has a different fingerprint. It means that it's a sign of Allah's unique, because you're unique, but you're going to pass away. So, but it gives you a sense to understand what uniqueness is about. And it's really the ultimate uniqueness resides with Allah Azza wa Jal. So then he moves on and he talks about wa najmu wa shajaru yasjudan. And here it's it's the same, but a bit more subtle. Allah is saying that all of these things are in this dynamic of balance and care being held up by him and by his angelic activity, but we can look at them as being submitted to that reality, that there's only one will in their reality. In the reality of the spheres, there's only Huwa al-Qawi al-Aziz. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's only his power and his strength. Because when you look at these incredible spheres, they're all submitted to their creational parameter. They can't move out of their creational parameter. They are what they are, as we are what we are. So this is a subtle and most profound reflection, that to witness the universe in this way. And then he reiterates this. وَشَمْسُ وَقَمَرُ وَشَمْسُ وَرَأَفَأْنَا وَأَدَى مِلْزَانِ. And the heavens he raised and imposed the balance. Again, continue to talk about that all the heavens, all the multi-universes, that however you want to approach this subject of expanding out of our small world here on this planet Earth, being also very profound and very important, that everything, again, it's a reflection of how everything is beyond, everything is in balance, everything is in submission. And here's where he goes on and he talks about exceeding the balance. He said, I'll read it in English. He says, and that he not exceed the measure, that you not transgress the balance. So here's for us, and I'm going to end this here at this point, and is that this is the beginning now of our responsibility. So what is our responsibility? Our responsibility ultimately is to reflect and be honest and reflect the divine attributes and the divine reality, because we are Khalifatullah. So there's a underscoring that Allah puts in the Quran here about you have to be fair. You can't put your finger on the scale when you sell something. When it's $1.59 a pound, the scale has to say $1.59, right? It has to weigh a pound. Why? Because, we know from a simple level or obvious level, it's not fair. When you're charging someone $1.99 a pound, they should get a pound for $1.99. But really, ultimately, what it's reflecting is that the universe, you're going against Allah's stamp on the universe. If everything is in balance, you want to reflect that reality. So when you make transactions in the world, whether it be in your business, in your life with your family, with your friends, with yourself, and your eating habits, and all this, we have to find the balance and the fairness so that we reflect and mirror the ultimate cosmology of the universe. Now, it's interesting just to make a note here that even if you do something like put your finger on the scale and the person's getting 3/4 of a pound for $1.99, and it looks like in the moment that you're getting away a benefit from an imbalance, you're not. Because ultimately that action, and every reaction has a equal and opposite reaction and a multiplier beyond what we know, you will pay for that one way or another. You could call it karma, whatever you want, but there is a constant rebalancing in the universe and in everybody's life. You can see it in the world every single day when people who behave in a certain way, eventually the day of reckoning comes. That when lies are going on, then the liar becomes exposed. This is that's the nature That is nature. That is, again, the fitra within us. The that energy, that stamp within us, that light within us, which is constantly seeking tawheed, wahida, constantly seeking oneness, balance, and this is the overriding reality that is stamped on every human being, no matter who they are. Doesn't matter. Every human being is the same. Every human being has a ruh. We're all the same. Never think just because we're Muslim and we have this deen and we know something, that's not the beginning and the end right there. You never know who you're with on the street, in your home, that they are, in the eyes of Allah, much greater than you can imagine yourself to be. So it requires that humility and being open and seeing. All right, Bismillah. Let's then do some dhikr. So when we do dhikr Allah, it's the same thing, is that you're entering into sacred space. You're entering into the sacred, which is already within you. You have within you the light, which is bil amri rabbi, and it is beyond time and space. We have also a mind, a binary, that is always involved in Safa and Marwa, this direction, that direction, this direction, that. And it is in that we want to quiet that element within us and imbibe and become intimate with the light within us. And that is what the dhikr of Allah brings about. So anything comes to your mind, let it go. Be in the presence, be in the moment, be in the now. You can close your eyes, sit comfortably. La ilaha illallah, 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 لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إلا الله لا إله 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 يا متجلي ارحم ذلي يا متعالي اصلح حالي يا متجلي ارحم ذلي يا متعالي اصلح حالي يا متجلي ارحم ذلي يا متعالي اصلح حالي. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبال ورأيت خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمطار يدعو الناس لم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة والرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله خالق البارئ ومصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So that is what it's us to enter into the light of the Quran, which is really, in reality, is you're just entering into the light of your own heart, where the divine presence is. You are in reality, we are all in reality, a single self, a ruh bil amri rabbi, connected to the divine reality. That is our real, authentic, although that word is overused, but authentic reality, authentic self, our real essential self is a ruh. And as we move through life, as a Muslim or not a Muslim, as you move through life, the call is there to unify the transitory, to submit the conditional to that which is forever and constant within you, which is the Nur of Allah. So every day, when we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, when we do our prayers, when we meet someone, when we wash the dishes, whatever it is that we do, remember the reality. Remember who you are. You are a being of light. Connect with it. Dissolve into it. Become obsessed with it. And so that all of the things that we do in life will become transformed and we'll fulfill what Allah has asked of us, is to be in Islam, in submission. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين. الحمد لله.